It's Thursday. We just got some CPI news. Market fell like a stone, trading down 48.10 right now. Not too much farther than the close from yesterday if you're looking at it. Right, we closed yesterday's trading session at 48.20 quarter. So one tick above the previous month's high. The reason I bring that up is because when we look at the previous month, right, we can see we've rallied back to that previous month's high. So something that we're talking about, if we stay above that 48.20, it's going to be a fairly bullish sentiment for the market. We're going to kind of continuing that one time frame higher. Really don't want to be getting short of this level. That would be more or less kind of calling that top. Short above that, just kind of look to stay long until 20 below that right now. So there is some opportunity to maybe just look for this part early on. I think probably just looking to this thing settle down. Switching over to the weekly, you can see, right, we rallied back up to these highs. We're back above this +4 week here. We have that 48.39.75 as the high. We're to switch that to Globex. See, it's actually 48.41. Get a couple more ticks in Globex, and we'll pull up the profiles. We'll look at that just to see it. But a lot of times, in my experience, we don't necessarily make highs or lows in the Globex session, which is interesting because if we look down here, and we will when we switch over profiles, we'll see that this swing low was made in the Globex session, and this swing high also made in the session. An interesting look. Kind of pay attention. For the most part, right now, we're looking at this weekly balance, and we're breaking up this weekly balance to break up into these all-time highs or back into. Switching over to the daily, right, we get this continuation of one time framing higher. Yesterday we had a +4 bar indicating some momentum. We did get a little bit of a liquidation off of the high. Right, the high yesterday was 48.28 half, and we settling at 48.20 quarter. So still the one time framing higher. Keeping track on the monthly, we've got a +4 previous month. This month still one time framing higher. Weekly is in a balance. Daily is up 4 time frame. There's your kind of sentiment right there, right? So you would say I would say +2. Pretty strong, right? When it's only out of 3. 66%. Those are pretty good odds, honestly. If you're thinking in odds, which you should be, and that's another great book. To look up thinking in bets. Um, but a 66% chance of a winner is really a great odds when it comes to the market, right? Of course, we'd love to have 80-90%, but that's just unrealistic. And one that telling you they're going to win percent of their trades is uh, probably just bullshitting, or just such a small sample size that it's trusted. So moving on to the profile. A little bit of review from yesterday, right? We got that move right back down to that previous day's settle. We were able to hold what I think is going to be a really key level, which is that previous day's high, that 48.04. Also that pullback low late in the day, right? We got that kind of pullback low and then bounced back up to that 48.20. You can see a pretty swift move down and then bounce back up. Finish on the high. Globex session is kind of come back down into that zone, and that's going to be key, I think, today. You can see overnight inventory is pretty mixed. A lot of long inventory as the overnight session pretty much. See, we made a high in the overnight session. Remember, this is a +4 situation. So with the settle being on the high, it actually gives us a little bit of ease of movement here to get our value here. So if we open inside, I mean, we still have some time. If we open inside, looking for play number one, outside play number. Let's say the value area high gets taken first. If that's the case, we want to see the market hold above the settle, that 48.20. It's not only yesterday's settle, but it's last month's close. Above that, and start to catch some upside, right? It's 28.30 level towards that Globex. Below that, if we open up inside, I I recommend exercising a little bit of caution. We do have some areas where we can kind of assume that maybe we get some breakdown, but it might be a little bit volatile and might be something just to be cautious of or just be aware of, as there's probably going to be a little bit of back and forth. A breakdown below this 48.04 is kind of going to be the sign of our intro to weakness and probably send us down towards that 47.90. Now, we talked about this yesterday. If there is going to be a breakdown, the market's going to have to find acceptance underneath this 83 and 76, right? So they're really close to each other, 10 points apart, but they're going to have to find sellers in this range. Sellers in this range are going to have to come back below that 68, which has been such a key level lately. We saw this rally that we just got start from that exact. That would be kind of the key here if the market is going to get a breakdown. Outside of that, right, you're talking about 67. We talked about 38. That's a pretty wide range. That's pretty much all I plan for when it comes to intraday trades, right? I'm not trying to think maybe down to 50, but I'm not ruling it out. And if you get the opportunity to catch a runner down to that level, so be it. Main thing here today is just to wait for the first 30 minutes to end, see if we get a break of the previous day's value areas. Look to go with. We have some untouched settles pretty much on both sides. I mean, I guess yesterday's settle really wasn't, so we could just very mechanical level, so to watch the previous day's low. And something to be cautious of too, I think, is if we do get this break of the value area low first, break the previous day's low, and are unable to trade down to this 83, to me, that's going to indicate that the old business still needs to get taken. Still short stuck here below this level. Come back inside the range. You're going to have to be cautious with anything. So that's just something to think about there. Now, like I said, we look over in profiles here, and the blue profiles are the overnight profiles or the Globex profiles, and you can see this swing high was made in the overnight session, also the swing low made in an overnight session. So typically those don't tend to stay. So up, we come down, if we come up, right, it's not for me to say. Just those are levels that should be carried forward on your chart. You can see at 47.02, I have it should mark this high. But you want to be kind of carrying these levels forward, as they typically don't tend to hold in a longer perspective, longer time frame. They're both going to trade today. That would be crazy. just something to note as we approach those levels. Should we get a breakdown as we get closer to that level? Oh, I should be buying this. This is it. Got to be careful of that level there because it's unlocked. Yeah, other than that, that's going to be our plan today. Hopefully, you guys have a wonderful day. Today's a day to make sure that you're managing some risk, right? Don't get crazy out there. It's probably going to be a pretty choppy or back and forth day. I don't know if I would say choppy because here today, maybe a little bit of back and forth. You've just got to be a little bit cautious and make sure you're managing risk and sticking to your trade plan. I will see you guys tomorrow.